that involve the Kings? I don't know. Maybe. Yeah. But Allen has something else he wants to get off his chest.
Yes, I do. And, with everything that's coming out right now, there was the exploratory talks with the Clippers and DeMar DeRozan and Keon Ellis, all that. Whitey, I'm here to say, as, Scott Perry, we follow each other on social media, had him on the show. He's great. With all that being said, I think we can all come to the agreement that his first mistake was this guard situation. Now, you can look at this a couple different ways, right? Whether it was the addition of Dennis Schroeder, whether it was making that deal and holding on to Malik Monk, whether that was keeping those two guys and adding Russell Westbrook. I think the first mistake that Scott Perry has made, and we were talking about the prudent and opportunistic, I'd make the argument that adding Russ and Schroeder probably wasn't prudent, to be completely honest with you, because now we have a situation where nobody seems to want Malik Monk's contract around the league. Dennis Schroeder, I guess we'll see. You can move him. There's still a logjam. And you're giving out posters and cards for Russell Westbrook because he's a really good player and he's put on a bad team so he can just be Russ. So you have three guys that everybody is connected to outside of Dennis Schroeder. And if hindsight was 2020, we'd have to look back at the time slots on all this, right? But if hindsight was 2020, you go to the Pistons and you say, hey, I am not doing that deal without moving Malik Monk. We have to move Malik Monk. We cannot go into the season with these three guys because I believe they always wanted Russell Westbrook. So if the Pistons then say, well, we don't want Malik Monk, then you say, all right, bleep it. We kind of don't want to win games this season anyway. I know at that time they thought maybe they had a chance to be the Suns. So they say, okay, we're going to keep Malik Monk and we're going to add Russell Westbrook because I don't believe people were – I brought it up on social media. People said, well, what about Russ and the other teams? Was he waiting it out? From what I recall, the Bucks had a spot. They got Cole Anthony. The Knicks had a spot. They got Jordan Clarkson. Besides that, the Rockets thing, they couldn't afford Russ because they couldn't spend money. So I never really heard about any other substantial teams interested in Russ. So from there, you decide, hey, we're just not going to go get Schroeder. We're going to go get Russell Westbrook. People might have complained. People might have praised it because, Russ has a huge fan base and you rock and roll with Russ, Malik, and then you can still move Malik. You can waive Russ and you go from there. I think the first mistake that he has made so far as a GM was the decision to still make the Dennis Schroeder deal, even though for whatever reason the Pistons didn't want Malik Monk's contract or however that happened, while keeping Malik Monk and then adding Russell Westbrook. Because I know you can easily waive Russell Westbrook, but Whitey, you said it yourself. Every time I bring that up, all the fans say, no, he's the guy that we have to keep. So I know that we've talked about, well, maybe they can pivot to Dennis Schroeder, but throughout all this, I haven't even brought up the fact that maybe Keon Ellis does become a bit of a better ball handler and distributor. Maybe Devin Carter can just get time on the basketball court as a 13th overall pick. And you kind of blew all that up for the chance at a 7 seed that we thought maybe you could get. And now you're stuck with three guys. Russ, you can move at any point in time, but you don't want to because of everything he brings to the team and the leadership. The other two guys, nobody seems to want Malik Monk's contract. And yeah, you can shop Dennis Schroeder, but that's just one guy, and you still got to find a deal for Dennis Schroeder. So I think that the decision to still bring on Dennis Schroeder once the Pistons said, or some version of, we're not taking Malik, I think at that point they should have just went and got Russell Westbrook.
Yeah, I hear exactly what you're saying. I'm not quite willing to say yet that Scott Perry made a mistake with that, but I think we're like 75% of the way there.
Yeah.
I think we have to see, like I said, I understand what you said, and I agree with the spirit of everything you said. If they are able somehow to spin off Schroeder, as far as we know, that doesn't appear likely. But then I think we'd have to go back and go, all right, that all worked out. But I'm with you. It was interesting how they appeared to be hell-bent on Schroeder. Yes. That was like, soon as we get a chance, that deal's done. And it looks like that was, wink, wink, agreed upon before anything happened. then you have Schroeder, and then you can't move Monk. And then what we heard, again, it's not fair to judge the Kings by what we hear necessarily if it's not directly from them. But what we heard was, well, they're interested in Russ, but they got to clear the logjam.
Right.
And then they didn't clear the logjam at all, and then they still brought him on.
Right. The decision.
So, that's kind of a head scratcher.
If you made the decision, your whole idea was we have to have 2 point guards, right? We have to have 2 point guards. Then you have to move Malik Monk before bringing in Russell Westbrook. And I do think that they maybe overshot the ability to move Malik Monk because it was still early. It was still the offseason, and they made that decision. And Malik Monk, you haven't been able to move him. Now he's playing well, and he's playing well because he's a good player.
Yeah.
That's the other part of this, too. The need of having two traditional point guards, who Doug plays at the same time, by the way, but the need to have 2 traditional point guards, 1 point guard, 1 backup point guard, and the assumption that Malik Monk was just unable to have any point guard duties.
I agree.
That, to me,
that was a mistake.
That was the miss.
Mm-hmm.
That was the miss. And he can still get out of it, don't get me wrong, but I'm looking at this thinking, I think he might have outkicked his coverage with how easy it was going to be to do this. You're trying to get rid of contracts, and you're adding them.
Yeah, and the key there, as you pointed out, is that at the time they brought in Schroeder, as far as we know, they were still thinking, all right, we'll see how this comes together, and then if it doesn't work, then we'll pivot the other way.
Right.
But there was still a hope, we think, of this team actually being halfway decent.
Yeah.
So that was the thinking then, and that's why now it looks so bad because, okay, we're not doing that anymore.
Right, and the other piece of this is the piece that I keep getting in trouble for is, well, you can clear something up if you move off of Russ. But they've been very open that they love Russ. So you're stuck there by your own regard. You don't have to be stuck, but they don't want to move Russ. So that's why you have, I guess, stuck yourself in this situation, because that's the one contract you can remove from the situation, but you don't want to, and that's your prerogative. You just have these 2 other contracts. Like you said, Whitey, it was going to be very hard if you couldn't move Malik in that deal to be hell-bent on Schroeder and Russ. You tried to kind of have your cake and eat it too, and now we are legitimately halfway through the season, and these young guys, I mean, we're going back and forth about Nick Clifford. I liked what I saw from Nick Clifford handling the basketball. Unfortunately, he doesn't get to do it on this team.
Yeah, you mentioned Keon as maybe becoming a better ball handler, and sometimes you read about a team that's interested in Keon, and whoever's writing it will say, well, this team could use an additional ball handler. I'm a big Keon fan. He doesn't do that well.
No, he doesn't.
Yeah.
He doesn't.
Yeah, after his breakout year, if you can call it that, I believe he went to Summer League, and some people wondered, why is he going back to Summer League? It was because they wanted him to work on his handle, and it's just not great.
No,
he can bring the ball up if no one's pressuring him. He's a basketball player. He can dribble, but as a guard, that's not something he does especially well. I think a big mistake, potentially, I don't know for sure what the thinking was, but we know that, as I asked DeMar about this myself after a game last year when he was up there at the podium with Zach LaVine, and I asked, do you guys feel like maybe as much as you've accomplished, you never have quite accomplished what you could together? And Zach didn't say anything. And DeMar said, when we were together in Chicago, it was going well. We had a point guard. So my point is, if part of the thinking of bringing in Schroeder was that that's going to unlock DeMar and Zach together, I think that was a huge miscalculation.
Yeah.
Because I just don't think it had anything to do with that, really. Lonzo played well, and yeah, it worked better. But those 2 guys they're not really that compatible.
No.
Unless DeMar, which is what we're seeing now, DeMar needs to be the primary ball handler.
Right,
actually.
right. And I think you could have maybe thrown that into the same category of why do you need Schroeder and Russell Westbrook.
I agree with that 1,000%.
If your backup point guard could have kind of been, to your point, by committee. It's a little bit of Malik. It's a little bit of DeMar DeRozan. It could even be Zach LaVine from one second to another. So the idea that you needed both of them, but now your unwillingness to move on from Russ, which you don't have to. He's a heck of a basketball player. He's a Hall of Famer. You don't have to. But now we're stuck in a spot where, I don't know what happens next season. I really don't. They can move on from Schroeder tomorrow. And I don't even know what they are trying to bring in for Schroeder. I guess projects, and then you move on from, future Hall of Famer Precious Achiuwa. I don't know. I don't know
Why
where
are you
you go.
taking shots at Precious
I'm
Achiuwa?
not. No, I'm not.
Yeah, you are.
I'm not taking shots at Precious Achua.
You're taking shots at the people that think he's playing well. You're taking a shot at
I'm
somebody.
not taking a shot at anybody.
Oh, really?
I'm just saying, I don't even know.
I have to wipe the sarcasm off of the console.
I don't even know if they made a deal right now, right? Somebody said, we looked up those numbers. Somebody said, why would they go get John Collins when Precious Achua is playing so well? So I looked at it, and obviously John Collins getting more consistent minutes. He's scoring more. But to be honest, and I'm not being sarcastic, it's comparable right now. So if we can't even now move DeMar DeRozan and Keon for John Collins because Precious Achua is playing well, and I promise you I'm not being sarcastic, if they are looking to make a move, Whitey, I truly don't even know what they're trying to get back besides, I guess, a bunch of young guys that they're going to see, but in a Keon-type move. I already saw people saying, so you're going to move Keon for somebody in John Collins when we have a redundancy there? So, Whitey, it's to the point now, if they move Dennis Schroeder tomorrow, I actually don't know what they're trying to get back in return. And I'm not doing a bit. I really don't know.
I gotcha. There was a report from Michael Scotto, right, that the Kings had exploratory or initial conversations with the Clippers on a deal, and it involved potentially, was it DeMar and Keon going?
It was DeMar and Keon for John Collins, which
that's the deal you're talking about.
Feels a bit redundant with Precious, and I am not taking a shot at Precious. No, it's the bit
when you
that
call him a Hall of Famer.
No, but you're
taking a shot.
No, it's the bit that we have running with Kings fans that don't want to move anybody.
You're taking a shot at Kings fan. Okay.
No, I'm not taking. Well, those specific ones, yes.
Yes.
Those specific ones, yes, I am.
Yes.
Okay. So now there's some redundancy there. So I really don't know as we look at this season, because think about it, Whitey. If they go and get a guy that you are super high on, Jarris Walker, if they go get let's say they go get Jarris Walker, right? Who is younger. I think he's 24.
If they get Jarris Walker, I'm going to buy season tickets just so I can cancel them.
Look, if they go get him, and then because of that, they waive Precious Achua, who's on a minimum contract, right? People are going to be upset. And it's not about not doing a deal because fans are going to be upset. We get that. It's part of it. Don't be Nico Harrison, but we get that. I'm just starting to struggle to figure out where they're trying to go and what the hierarchy is starting to look like. Because now you have two centers. I know you can kind of run Maxime and Dylan together. They typically don't. And now you're bringing back Domantas Sabonis. Yeah, I'm very, should I just say, intrigued at where this roster goes next.
You know what Jeff Petrie used to say about upsetting fans? Jerry Reynolds told us this on the show. Jeff Petrie used to say, if you're going to lead the orchestra, you turn your back to the audience.
Yeah.
So fans might get upset, but if you know what you're doing and you want to do it, oh well.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. That is the one thing, as much as I've had fun with it, that is the one thing about these seasons that don't really have too much. That's been my whole thing with this. People want to cling to something. You can't cling to the actual season because the season is a mess. So they cling to great story, Precious Achua, great story, Dylan Cardwell. And I guess if you're Scott, you have to say, hey, if he feels like this, thank you for your service, Precious or whoever. We have to get the 22-year-old, the 24-year-old, who Precious might be better than right now.
If Precious is really, if you have the sense that he's got something, I would trade him at the deadline now. Not because I need to get rid of him, but because, I out of almost nothing, I have an asset.
Yeah.
If I can get some value, let's do that.
Yeah, I had cooked up. I know Warrior fans just simply don't want DeMar DeRozan, but I had cooked up a deal where it was the Kings get JK from the Bay.
Very close to a violation.
The Kings get him.
Just say they get a young wing.
Yeah, the Kings get a young athletic
front
wing.
court flair.
Right, who has dreams of...
I knew this was going to be hard for you.
Who would have dreams of leading a team, and the Warriors would get DeMar DeRozan and Precious Achua. Because if you look at the Warriors roster, they don't have somebody like Precious Achua. They got a bunch of weird two guards. And Brandon
Are they
Podziemski.
weird?
Yeah, I mean, they're kind of just...
Brandon Podziemski last night on the game that you couldn't see because you didn't know it was on
That's
Amazon.
why I didn't watch.
He was unbelievable.
Yeah, that's why I didn't watch. I don't believe it because I didn't see it.
He was almost throwing balls in from the corner while falling out of bounds.
Nah, I can't watch that.
I'm not a huge fan, but he was amazing last night.
It's on Prime.
Yes.
On a Thursday.
Yes, it was.
Well, come on, do it on a Friday.
Yeah. the story that you were talking about with the Clippers, there was a suggestion that the Kings were exploring this deal and it got shut down because the Clippers started playing a lot better, so they no longer had interest in it.
Yeah.
But I don't know if anyone's suggesting, the Kings should have got going on that sooner. I don't think the Kings could have done anything. They were prudent, opportunistic. They had the talks, and then all of a sudden, the Clippers got hot. It's not like, they should have pulled the trigger. I don't think they were close enough to ever even have considered pulling the trigger on that.
Which is so funny because we were looking at the Clippers thinking, oh, man, they're so bad that they're not going to make a move. We need them to be better in order to want a DeMar DeRozan. Then I guess they got too good and got to the point where, now we don't think we need DeMar DeRozan because now we're rolling. So funny enough, the Clippers have been so hot and so cold. That has been how they have avoided a deal to try to get DeMar DeRozan down there because they were too bad to do the deal. Then they were so red hot, they feel like, we can't mess this up. So they found a way to not do this deal because this is what we wanted, people that wanted to move off of DeMar DeRozan. Well, the Clippers have to play better. Then they just played too much better.
Yeah, with Domas coming back, I know some people in the YouTube chat are talking about this. The whole minutes issue becomes a front burner issue again. And I know game to game at times it has been, and with Russ playing a lot of minutes and with DeMar playing a lot of minutes, it's not like it's been forgotten, but I think it becomes a bigger issue now if Domas comes back and if some of your younger players are sitting because he needs minutes. And maybe we see him playing with Max a little bit. But people are wondering here, how many minutes should your veterans play here? Is this Doug's call? Is Doug trying to win games? Who's making these decisions? Don't you going forward have to let your younger players play more minutes? And all those things are part of what makes the rest of this, until they start making trades, really tricky.
Yeah. How funny is it?
Because they're playing well and you don't really want to.
How funny is it that at the beginning of the season, all the conversation that we had about the log jam, that should be banned before JK and the Bay. The word log jam.
You are really skirting it.
The word log jam should be banned. But how funny is it that the log jam that we talked about this whole time, they just didn't do anything about it? But the other logjam that has now been created, we're more worried about Domantas Sabonis playing than because of Dylan Cardwell.
Because we've gotten used to the fact that Keon's sitting or Malik is sitting.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. We're just numb to it.
Right.
We're sitting here arguing Domantas Sabonis returning for a second-round pick and an undrafted rookie instead, but DeMar DeRozan can keep playing 40 minutes, and Dennis Schroeder can come back. And
there's a reason for that's a good point, but the reason is because, and I know you just don't want to acknowledge it, but Dylan Cardwell's been playing so well, and his development appears to be on the track that you want it to be on. Maxime Reynaud as well. It's like, all right, that's a big part of what this year is about, is developing these young players. Yeah. And now they are responding to the minutes you're giving them. Now is not the time to curtail their minutes, is it?
Yeah.
But what else are you going to do with Domas coming back?
Well, the problem is the Kings got so many dang guards that even when Dennis Schroeder was out, you didn't even notice. Nobody even really got extra minutes, or you were able to slot Malik
I know, it's
back
almost
in
like,
there.
woo,
yeah,
that's a relief.
Right, now we can have a normal rotation.
Yeah.
There's no opportunity because now we can just have a normal rotation. But I think it's the same thing that you said, Whitey. I do believe people are numb to it. You know what it reminds me of? It reminds me of the Harrison Barnes conversation when he wasn't playing that well, and everybody would say, he needs to be out of the starting lineup. We got to start Trey Lyles. And Mike Brown at that point just kind of Nick Saban'd it. I'm not doing it, so don't ask. So everybody just kind of stopped. Media, fans, we all just stopped asking about benching Harrison Barnes. At this point, Doug, when it comes to the vets, we're just so beat down. It's just like Nick Saban. We just don't ask anymore. We just assume they're just going to play 38 minutes. It's just what it is.
Mm-hmm. Let's see here. I say